You have to sign in like 2 or 3 times before it actually lets you do it. Okay. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. Hello, I am Juliana Reshik, and I serve as the chair for the Continuing Nurse Education Committee of the Kansas State Board of Nursing. I ask the members of the Continuing Nurse Education Committee to respond to a roll call signifying their presence at the open meeting via conference call. Mandy Karstetter.
Present.
Rebecca Sonder.
I believe.
Present.
Linnell Hull. Laura Abale.
I believe she will be absent today. She sent an email yesterday.
Okay. Kanetta Markin Lyons. Karen Oftenberg. I also ask the following board staff members to signify their attendance. Carol Moreland, Executive Administrator.
Here.
Chelsea Stevenson, Education Secretary.
Here.
Public comment allows individuals to address the Continuing Nurse Education Committee about their concerns, but the Kansas Opens Meetings Act, which is known as COMA, does not require the Continuing Nurse Education Committee to provide public comment or answer questions from individuals. As we will not know what comments an individual may make, we would want to provide notice to the public of our intent to discuss a particular matter so that the public may listen and observe our discussion. Public comment will not be taken today due to that concern, and because this is a meeting conducted remotely by Zoom and YouTube, where the connection may be lost over time and the time for the meeting may not allow everyone who is present to comment. Because we are conducting this public meeting remotely by Zoom and YouTube, I state for the record the following information. August 27th, 2020, the board sent notice of the meeting for the Continuing Nurse Education Committee to all individuals who have requested notice of the committee's meetings. Additionally, the notice and agenda were posted on the board's website, ksbn.kansas.gov. The notice contains the link and passcode to access the meeting by Zoom and the link to access the meeting by YouTube so that the public may attend this meeting free of charge. The notice also advises individuals to contact the board's office at 785-296-2967 should they experience any technical issues during the meeting. You may obtain a copy of the notice and agenda at the website or by sending an email to carol.moreland@ks.gov with the subject line "Request for the Agenda," and the board staff will send it to you. Effective June 9th, 2020, the Kansas legislature ratified Governor Kelly's emergency declaration due to the COVID-19 pandemic and extended it through September 15th, 2020. On September 11th, 2020, the State Finance Council extended the emergency declaration to October 15th, 2020. However, the requirements of COMA were not suspended. We will be conducting this meeting pursuant to COMA and KAR 16-20-1 concerning compliance with the COMA during the emergency declaration. The connections to Zoom and YouTube are the only mediums for interactive communication offered for this meeting. Each member of the committee, board staff, or presenter shall state the person's name and title each time the person speaks or votes, as the case may be. Each participant to this meeting shall ensure microphones, phones, or other electronic devices are on mute when the participant is not speaking. Each motion will be clearly stated before the committee votes, and the chair will announce the results of the final vote. A statement or motion will clearly identify and authorize by delegation each member of the committee or staff who will be permitted to sign any document on behalf of the board. A recording of the meeting will be posted on the board's website. The committee has the following items listed on its agenda: call to order, review of on-site packet, additions or revisions to agenda if needed, announcements, approval of minutes for the meeting held in June 2020, unfinished business, new business, agenda for the committee meeting in December of 2020, and adjournment. The meeting is now called to order, and the committee will consider the next item on the agenda. So we will do a review of the on-site packet, and I don't believe there was one. Is that correct, Chelsea?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can we see if any of these other people came on? Because otherwise you have 7 committee members, but you only have 3 here. So I don't know if you have a quorum unless somebody else has come on. Just wanted to bring that up.
That's a great point. Thank you, Carol. Absolutely.
If I may, I'm looking at the participant list now, and it's myself, Chelsea, Colton, Juliana, Andrea Watson, Carol Moreland, Rebecca Sanders, Audrey Goldsmith, Adrian Guerrero, Mandy Carstetter. And then there's 2 phone numbers for call-in listeners, but I'm not sure who they belong to.
If you would like, I could resend basically everyone on the list the invite.
That might be helpful, Adrian.
Is there
Okay,
any way to
I'll do
find
that.
out who's the 2 phone people? Is that some committee members or?
Just to prevent this from happening, don't say their phone numbers. We're live.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You could ask them to do the chat at the bottom to identify themselves if they wish
Okay.
to, and then we could let them in if they're a member of the committee.
I do see that Karen Oftenberg just joined, but she joined as an attendee. She should be a panelist.
Can we move Karen to the attendee list or the panelist list?
I believe that Colton can.
Yeah, sorry, I'm doing that.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Okay, great. Okay, we've got Karen here now. Karen, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
So I'm not sure how to see the chat. Did we get a chat message from either of the 2 phone numbers that have called in?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
But that does give
I
you
don't
4
think
out
it-
of 7.
I don't
so-
think they'd be able to do the chat since they're on their phone.
I see. Okay, so we are at a quorum now with Karen, so, okay.
Yes,
Thanks, Carol.
you're welcome.
So going back to our agenda, review of the on-site packet, is that correct? There was not one, Chelsea?
Yes, that's correct. There's no on-site packet.
Okay. Is there any additions or revisions to the agenda?
No, this is Carol Moreland. There's none that I'm aware of. No.
Okay, great. Do we have any announcements today from anyone?
Madam Chair, this is Carol Moreland, Administrator, and I just wanted to let the committee and everyone know that Linnell's term on the committee is finished, so this would have been her last meeting, but she's obviously not here unless she seeks another term. So I just wanted to take this time to say thank you to her. We appreciate all the work that she's done. We will be sending her out a certificate of appreciation, but I just kind of wanted to say thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for letting us know, Carol. And we do really appreciate the participation of nurses across the state in this committee and fulfilling this obligation. And it is taxing. So we understand the commitment that she made and appreciate everything Linnell has done. So thanks for pointing that out. Okay, moving on to the minutes. Did folks have an opportunity to review the minutes from June 16th?
This is Karen, and the minutes, I didn't see any changes that needed to be made.
Thanks, Karen. Would you like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
Yes, I move that we accept the June meeting minutes as published.
Is there a second?
This is Mandy. I will second that.
Thanks, Mandy. All in any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. I don't believe that we have any. So going down to our new business, we have the Iowa Statistical Report.
Yeah, this is Carol Moreland, Administrator, and you see that on page 6 in your packet. It's pretty much there. We are continuing to do, I think, well with the electronic IOAs. The turnaround time, I will say, is much faster, I believe, from when we get them in the agency until we either get them approved or denied and sent back. Usually the denial is just because they haven't submitted possibly all of the information that we need. So, we kind of made it that the fields are mandatory that they have to fill in and they can't submit until those are actually filled in. But sometimes the attachments like the schedule of learning or something is not there, or it doesn't have enough information on it. But I actually think the electronic IOAs are going very well. You kind of see all the rest of it there. So I don't think, unless there's some questions for me, there's much more on that.
Thank you, Carol. How about program coordinator education?
Sure, this is Carol Moreland again. I can talk to that. Chelsea and I have been doing Zoom meetings we did them for the annual report, and I hope they were helpful. You'll kind of see when we get to that on the agenda that we're missing a few still, but I think maybe it's better than it was in the past. I'm not sure. And then we still continue to provide them quarterly for any program administrators who have to send in like a renewal application. And I hope it's helping. I don't see quite as much information missing on these applications. I think the piece that we haven't really pegged very well yet are the people who want to submit applications, because those typically are missing information. And there's still there's this, we need more clarity somehow, and we're trying to work on this about what would be a single provider and what would be a long-term provider, a single program provider. There's still some confusion on that, but I think the start that we've made on education has helped. I don't know if Chelsea has anything she wants to add to that, but we always get good reviews that they find it very helpful. So I think maybe we just need to build upon it somehow.
Well, I can only imagine trying to submit the application. I know as a board member and trying to review them was a learning curve for sure. So I appreciate you doing that, Carol. So moving on to the long-term provider relinquished providers, we have 3 of them. Do we need to accept those, or is that just an FYI, Carol?
I think it's just an FYI because they've notified us and given us the information that we need.
Okay. The renewals, and I did, Carol sent out to the committee our assignments and the opportunity to review each one of these in detail, and I'm hoping that we took the time to do that. In addition to, I think it's important that our board staff has also spent a significant amount of time reviewing these. So I hope we've taken that into consideration, and we may not need to really dissect each component of the application if it's meeting our requirements as we've reviewed it prior to the meeting. So we'll try to move through these in an expeditious manner. So starting with Advent Health in Ottawa, I know that was on my list to review, and I'm not sure if I had a partner in that or not. And I apologize, I just have one screen up right now, so I don't have both of those in front of me.
Yeah, Linnell also.
Can I
was
jump in
assigned.
real quick? It looks like Kinetta is maybe one of the phone numbers.
Okay.
I'm not sure which. I think they've messaged Juliana. They're commenting on the YouTube.
Okay. Thank you, Colton. Okay. Linnell was the other one assigned to review Advent Health Ottawa.
Okay, great. I did not have any concerns with the Advent Health. I don't know if anyone else did or have any things they'd like to bring up. It looked like the staff review of it was comprehensive as well, so. Okay, so
This is Chelsea at the board, and I just wanted to let you know that I do have motion slips that are already typed out and printed. And kind of what I did for Education Committee was I went ahead and read the motions, and then the committee members could then make a motion in a second. So if that's okay with you, I'm certainly willing to read those. That way we don't have to come up with the verbiage.
that is incredibly helpful, Chelsea. Thank you very much for doing that. So if the board members are supportive, we would take a motion to look at Advent Health of Ottawa.
So I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Advent Health Ottawa LT 00550905.
I'll make that motion. This is Mandy.
Thank you, Mandy. Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Rebecca, board member.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
This is Karen, I.
Aye.
This is Rebecca, I.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Blue Valley School District. Carol, can you remind us who had that one to review?
Absolutely. That was Mandy Carstetter and Laura Haberly.
Okay.
I did not see anything on here that would raise any red flags. I think except for the first certificate in there, it had somebody else's name on it instead of Tara's, but I mean, it's nothing that they couldn't fix when they were signing them, so.
Okay.
And I
And-
think maybe on there was a sheet she didn't have a signature on, but I don't think that that's a main issue.
Okay. Any other discussions about the Blue Valley School District application?
The motion reads, I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Blue Valley School District LT 01740262.
This is Rebecca Sander. I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Rebecca. Is there a second?
I second. It's Kaneda.
Hi, Kaneda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Finally, I'm in. I have been trying since 12:25. But
Oh, bless you,
It's a
Lord.
new world in these
I
Zoom
made it.
meetings, right? Is there any discussion about the Blue Valley School District motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 This is
Karen,
is-
aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying nay. The motion carries. Ellsworth County Medical Center. Carol, do you know who reviewed that one with you?
I do.
Kaneda
Okay,
was on that one.
Kaneda and Rebecca Sander.
great.
I didn't notice anything either, except on one of the second offering, their evaluation form. And it did not list out the team of instructors. There was a team of instructors, and they just, the group was to evaluate them as a whole. And that works great when you have great instructors that work together, but it wouldn't identify somebody who, needed some feedback on their performance. And so I didn't know.
Mhm.
Carol, do you think that warrants a feedback suggestion to them, or was it just that particular program you think that they do the team teaching with?
I'm not really sure, but that certainly could be feedback that we provide, that they need to ensure in the future that they're offering evaluation form lists.
For each one?
Yeah. and they
Even
evaluate each.
because a faculty member would not be able to get specific feedback if they wanted it on how they did, because they were evaluated as a group, and it's really hard for an audience to evaluate like that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be
This
great
is
feedback.
Kaneda. That's what I thought too.
That
The
was really
instructors were not really
Yeah.
evaluated.
but otherwise they were good. They looked good.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that might be something that we could just provide back as a recommendation, but maybe not necessarily require them to change that?
Well, I didn't know. I don't know. Maybe that's the only
Yeah.
program they do the team teaching like that, and they have the same crew that always does it, and maybe that's why they feel comfortable evaluating that way. But if they ever would change their format, I think it would cause issues.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we use the word ideally instead of mandated. I don't know. Saying the word instead of saying mandatory, you do that, but it's kind of an ideally we preferred that each individual instructor is evaluated instead of combined. So could we approve it just with that? Well, what word do we use, Carol? Politically correct, non-mandate. It's
Well-
highly recommended, or
I believe it's in the Nurse Practice Act that they have to have the ability to evaluate each instructor. So it would
okay,
be a matter of reminding them of that
okay.
regulation, and they need to ensure going forward that they meet that. Is my thoughts. Anyway.
Well, that's good. The word reminding them, we don't want to be mean and forceful, but if the statute says that, then we need to remind them that the statute requires an individual eval.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does, but I'll check on that.
So Chelsea, maybe we have it sounds like we might be ready for a motion with that reminder.
Right.
So what I have is I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Ellsworth County Medical Center LT 0266-1010 with a reminder to include evaluations for individual instructors.
I'll make that motion. This is Mandy.
Thank you, Mandy. Is there a second?
This is Karen. I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 This is Rebecca. I.
Karen, aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Olathe Public School Health Services.
This is Karen. I was on that one.
Great, thanks, Karen.
It looked good, and if I overlooked, please, whoever helped review, let me know. But I didn't see specific policies and procedures included. I know they write it out on that initial page, but I didn't see their actual policies and procedures. And then I didn't see the coordinator, Susan's CV, as far as her experience in nursing education and her credentials.
This is Mandy. Which speaker did you say?
Actually, it was the coordinator,
The coordinator.
Sharon Morris.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking right now to see, because I don't remember if I saw that or not. She is correct. On this first initial page, it doesn't have those policy and procedures like the other ones did in the front. I guess I'm just not seeing it.
And this is Carol, just for clarification, I don't know that they have to submit.
They don't have to submit that? Okay.
procedures. A lot of them do, and then they don't have to put quite as much in these sections. They just submit it, and then it's a little bit easier, but just FYI.
Okay, thank you. And I did notice there was a source on the bib that was from 1997 and one from 2007 on each of their offerings.
Yeah, on the second one, there's one for 1998 and 1978 in bibliography as well.
Oh my.
In the second offering. I'm going back through and I'm not finding anything on Sharon Morris. They have Sarah Gilliland, which is one of the speakers or that offered that, but I'm not finding hers in here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think I called her Susan. Sorry. Yes, Sharon.
And that is a requirement. Am I correct, Carol, that we get the CV?
I'm looking on the checklist to see if
Carol,
maybe.
you're muted.
Sorry. Okay. We do have to have that to be able to tell that they have 3 years of clinical experience. They have 1 year of experience in developing and implementing. And it may have been that she has submitted it to us in the past, and this seems to.
And just didn't put it in.
And they don't resubmit it with their renewal application, but we can certainly get it from her.
Is it required for them to have that in their renewal?
Well, it's required that they provide something to us. We can check off that they're a licensed professional nurse, which we can do that without it. Have
Yeah.
3 years of clinical experience and have 1 year of experience in developing and implementing nursing education. So if they don't address it in here, then yes, we're gonna need something to show that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing her credentials on anything, but I could have missed that too. Did you, Mandy?
No, I'm not, and I'm going back through just to see if maybe I missed it, and I don't see anything.
We can certainly ask for that. I think she probably does meet that.
So I don't know if the committee would be in favor of this, but maybe there is a motion made for approval if additional documents are submitted or something like that.
So this is Chelsea, and I can word a motion and then just let me know any changes, but what we've done.
That'd be great.
Previously, we've done something like this. I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Olathe Public School Health Service LT 02420950 upon receipt of the program coordinator's CV.
This is Mandy. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mandy. Is there a second?
This is Karen. I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion?
Do we need to mention anything about the dates on the bib, or just as a reminder to have more current?
I think that's a good idea. Maybe we,
Maybe just a friendly reminder.
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Sorry, now I messed up the motion probably.
That's okay. I can change the motion if that's okay, just to say upon receipt of, well, would you like to require them to provide updated sources or just to remind them to use current?
So maybe we could have just an amended motion and then can we do that, Carol? You might have to help me with Robert's rules here.
You can do that. I mean, if you say that they have to submit updated bibliography, well, these 2 programs have already taken place. So they're not going to have an updated bib on these 2. So they're going to have to submit an updated bib on something else if that's what you want. Or we
I think we were just wanting to do a reminder to evaluate their bibliography for next time. I think we're okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, committee.
No, that is correct, because it's too late for them to do it on this one.
Right.
They just need a reminder because those are really old.
Yeah, I can send a reminder with the terminology, the language from the regulation, just to remind them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. If we amend the motion to include, do we need to amend the motion to include that reminder, or can we just move forward with our motion and have that as an addition?
I think you can move ahead with your motion and just direct me to communicate to them the reminder about the language in there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carol.
Fine with me.
So I appreciate the discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Canetta, aye.
Rebecca, aye.
Karen, aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. So now we have Susan B. Allen Memorial Hospital.
And the ones to review that were Laura and Canetta.
And Kanetta, do you have some comments maybe?
I think it looked pretty good. I think it was Carol that made the statement that they did not state that the books must be published within the past 10 years. That is on their in their policy and procedures.
I didn't see that, if you're asking me, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, okay. I think it
maybe
looks
you
good.
saw it, but I didn't see it. I just, as I'm looking, you realize I probably did this like 2 months ago, but trying to remember everything, but it looks like under documentation of attendance, you know, they did submit a roster and stuff, but I don't know that they really talked a whole lot about it. They talked about, you know, certificates of attendance and stuff like that, contact hours. Now, maybe you saw it, Kanetta, and I did not someplace. And on the roster that they submitted, and that would be on page 269, they have a different coordinator on there than who is the program or the coordinator, which is Cecilia. But what they have on here is a Kim Edwards.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, so, and they didn't really verbally, I mean, they didn't really provide written information about the sign in and the way to verify that they had attended it and stuff like that. So I kind of saw that section on page 258 at the top as just being kind of maybe not there, other than the example that they had. And they really didn't have license numbers on the example that they have. The sign in on page 269, because they're supposed to have the participant's name and license number. And then contact hours awarded, that's not really filled in on page 269. So I think there's some things missing on that particular part.
Yes, on their certificate. I'm trying to find my notes.
Well, their roster, their sign-in roster.
Roster.
I mean, I don't think they submitted an example of a
Oh, here it is.
roster.
Yes, and it's missing the signature certificate, isn't it? Missing signatures too. The signature.
Well, the certificate.
Maybe I was thinking of the roster.
The certificate on page 270 has a roster. It has who was the CNE coordinator.
Okay.
Cynthia was actually before Cecilia, so that's there. But
okay, so it's just the roster.
Yeah, it just seems the roster was missing a few things. And maybe this Kim Edwards was the coordinator at some point. I'm not really sure who she is.
So that needs to be cleared. Cleared up.
So knowing those things, Kanetta, would you recommend not approving them or maybe sending back with some recommendations? What are your thoughts?
This is a renewal. It needs to be corrected maybe before the approval. Or maybe we should, what do you think, Carol? Approve it based on them making that change?
Well, what we could do is require that they send us a template for an
Mhm.
roster that's corrected, that shows all of the information that we require, and then possibly their policy or their procedure to ensure that that information gets on there, because, you know, they have a place for hours and license number, but it's not filled in. So I don't know if it's their policy that they don't expect the person attending to fill it in, or so maybe those two would clarify. I don't know, that's just a suggestion.
Mhm.
So I'm looking through it. I did not see a bibliography for the first offering.
I think what we got with that is, and this is a really well-known speaker, and I guess
Yeah,
I'm not
she's done
surprised to
quite a
see
bit.
this. Yeah, that we get all of this, you know, the presentations that they've done, the publications that they've done, you know, what is there, there's probably 6 or 8 pages of this,
Mhm.
probably what she submitted.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think I'm having trouble. You know, I'm sure it's there, but it seems like there's so many gaps with this application. What is their expiration date, Carol?
They actually, Chelsea, help me here, but they actually expired. This should have come in, what, March?
Yes.
And we didn't have a meeting in March, and
Mhm.
they asked if they could get an extension to the next meeting because of the whole COVID pandemic. And I mean, I know that Cecilia is also like their director of nursing or whatever. So she had multiple hats on, and they really were not doing, I don't think, too many CNEs at that point in time because of everything going on. And then somehow we did not get it until, I think she was a little confused about the annual report and this renewal, because we got this same time that we would have got her annual report. And so this actually, I think they expired maybe back in March, Chelsea, or
Yeah, I think that's right.
yeah, it's been a little while, so they're overdue. And she did apologize. I think just everything going on, maybe.
Juliana, do you think that we could do it if the conditions that those things that are missing were sent to the board or sent to the office? I mean, you know, taking into consideration, especially somebody who's got multiple hats on, it's something that's not life-threatening or not, you know, but definitely we need in order for it to be in good standing. I mean,
I would
knowing that
support.
it's not probably been easy for anybody.
Yeah, I'd support that, Mandy, if the committee will. Yeah. So similar to motion, maybe to what we had previously about approval with submission of.
So I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Susan B. Allen Memorial Hospital LT 00740349 upon receipt of additional required documents.
This is
Carol-
the opposite motion.
Great, thanks, Mandy. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Kaneda.
Thank you, Kaneda. Any discussion? Carol, are you comfortable what those additional documents are? Do you need us to list those out?
No, I think I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Kaneda, aye.
Rebecca, I.
Karen, I.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Sorry, I got to get back to my agenda. So we are down to our initial provider application. So Dusenberry Health Associates, LLC.
Yeah, the reviewers for this were Linnell and Karen.
This is Karen. I thought it looked good. I noticed on the first offering, I didn't see an evaluation of the program. And I think that was it. There was another date that was 1999 on the bib on the first offering. But the second offering looked good.
So maybe we just need to remind them that they need evaluations on their courses.
That would be
Would you be-
good. She did have it on her second offering.
Okay. Okay.
She may have just overlooked it.
Okay. So Chelsea, can you suggest a motion for us?
Sure. I move to approve the long-term provider initial application for Dusenberry Health Associates LLC with a reminder that all offerings need an evaluation.
This is Rebecca. I'll move.
Thanks, Rebecca. Is there a second?
This is Mandy, I'll second.
Thanks, Mandy. Any discussion? All in favor by signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Rebecca's aye.
Janetta, aye.
Karen, aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Review of long-term CNE provider annual report.
Yeah, you have that starts on page 421. I did it a little bit different this year than maybe it's been done in the past. I'm not sure. I haven't done this, compiled this for a while, and there's been just dates from what went in here because this was actually put in here probably the middle of August, if not the first part of August. All of these were due by July 31st, just as a reminder. When you look through here that there's 5 that did not submit an annual report in 2019 or 2020. And then there's 20 that we still have a 2020 annual report. The changes that are there are on page 422, Catherine Strucker, Educational Strategies, yeah. They actually did a report and a payment, so they're okay. And then, let me see, back on page 426, the New Birth Company, they submitted a report but no payment. So we do have a 2020 report from them now. And then on page 427, Remedy Healthcare Consulting, we received their report and their payment for 2020. And then on page 428, Wesley Perinatal Outreach, we received their annual report and their payment after this it all went to print, so to speak. So it looks maybe a little bit better. I just did want to remind you kind of what the regulations say about this in case you're not really, you can't remember it by heart. In 60-9-107, it states that if the provider does not continue to meet the criteria for the current approval established by regulation, approval may be withdrawn or conditions relating to the providership may be applied by the board after giving the approved provider notice and an opportunity to be heard. I guess my concern is the ones who haven't even submitted in 2019. And sometimes what's happened is there's been coordinator changes at the, at wherever this is at, that never gets communicated to us. The communication that we send out goes to who we think is the coordinator. And if it's changed a time or two, it may never get to the person who is now, but we don't know that. I think Chelsea has sent probably 2 or 3 reminders, correct?
Yes, so I sent an email reminder and also a notice in the mail.
Okay. I have reached out several times. I'm just not sure. We can continue to reach out, but definitely I think we need to reach out for the ones who submitted the annual report but didn't pay us, because that to me is an issue also. Just kind of looking for a little direction maybe from the committee.
Carol, how many are we talking about in numbers? This is Rebecca.
Okay, so with the updates that I just gave you, there's 5 that did not submit 2019 or 2020. And I don't know if they're still doing CNE. Understand that, because I mean, I guess there's probably no way we would know that unless somebody submitted a certificate on a CNE.
Mercy Health Center in Fort Scott has closed, so my guess is they are not.
Okay. And that's okay.
Mercy Hospital, Fort Scott.
Okay.
And this is Karen. I see I'm still on there, but I retired a year ago. So I can check with Mary Beth and see if they were going to relinquish the West providership and just keep the East.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I can double check on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, Karen, this is Chelsea. I just sent a generic letter to them because I'm not sure who replaced you. So
yeah, and I think Mary Beth was taking over both of them, but with the renewal, she might have just renewed the one, but I can check and email you.
So then just to answer you, Becky, I started out with 20 that we didn't get any 2020 annual reports, but then if you track these ones that we just talked about.
Yeah.
So they may have, some of these people may think that they are no longer doing CNE. They just never really notified us. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm struggling with how to make them accountable for their duties and responsibilities. But on the other hand, so much, even if 2020 has happened, it seems like when the good old dependable CNE provider coordinators retire, they're usually they don't give them a replacement. It's usually embedded somewhere else or scooted somewhere else, or somebody gets thrown in there by the seat of their pants with no orientation. So I can see both sides of this, and I'm trying to think what's a good way to address this.
And it's even more frustrating for us when we don't know who we're supposed to be talking to there, or it's kind of difficult.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if we, so Carol, will you remind us the actions that can be taken by the board for failure to comply with the fee and the annual report?
What it says is, if the provider does not continue to meet the criteria for current approval established by regulation, approval may be withdrawn or conditions relating to the providership may be applied by the board after giving the approved provider notice and an opportunity to be heard.
So Chelsea, I'm not sure what your letters say to them, but maybe we, certainly to the folks that haven't responded in 19 or 20, could we draft a letter with that exact language from the Nurse Practice Act, and saying that if we don't hear from you by, our next meeting's in December, if we don't hear from you by November 1st, we're anticipating the board may take some action?
This is Carol. I'm just not sure about the opportunity to be heard if we have to say you could attend the December CNE committee or something along that line. Maybe, and I could maybe check with Jan if you want me to about
Okay.
exact language that should say, so that they do have the we have given them the correct notice and we have given them an opportunity to be heard.
I think that'd be a great idea. Maybe Jan could help us craft that letter.
Okay.
And we have to make sure that everybody is getting that letter delivered to the right person. I have a concern too, that it arrives in the generic pile at a hospital. And, it could sit there for weeks before somebody gives it to the person that it needs to be reading it. And that, that's another issue with the smaller, I'm talking smaller hospitals. Because gosh, they wear so many hats. And CEs is not high priority on their to-do list.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose we could send it to the administrator of the hospital.
Well,
And
now
it
that
would be kind of their responsibility to get it to the right person.
That's a
Maybe you
thought.
send it to both. Send it to the
Okay.
education department as well as the administrator. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Just so they can't use that as an argument for, why they were delayed.
Right.
Is it could be a delivery issue, and they might have a point.
That's true. Yeah.
It's very hard to track down who is doing their department in today's world. It's very hard to track that down.
It is. I agree.
Is it something that you can post on our website, on KSBN website as well?
Well, I can check with Jan, but I would think after we've exhausted all of this, we've given the notice and the opportunity to be heard, and we've not heard back, then I think if approval is withdrawn, at that point, I would think that we probably could put that in our newsletter.
Okay.
So that everyone is aware if they take CNE from this provider that they're not really an approved provider anymore.
Okay.
I can check on that, but that is one way to get information out if we've done all the rest of this. But I can hear Jan talking in my ear. You have to do all the rest of this correctly to get to that point.
It's just right now, I think everybody's drowning in surviving,
I
the
know.
little people, not the big people in the year 2020, because there's no live classes for CEs. They're not generating
Right.
income. And December is just 3 months away. I just really think that they're just not even going to be knowing all this is happening. And then boom, all of a sudden they're on the list of ineligible and they don't even know it.
Well, what we could do also is we can reach out to the administrator of all of these places just to let them know that we have not been getting the annual reports. So furthermore, they are not meeting the criteria that is in our Nurse Practice Act, and to please notify us or submit this, or we can try that.
I think that's a good idea because right now they're just on, money survival.
Yeah.
They all are until this gets over with.
We could certainly do that and then maybe bring this back in December and I will have Jan's feedback. Would that be helpful or?
Yeah, because I'd hate to have all these.
That's fine. My concern is we're not, some of these haven't submitted since 2019. And I feel like we're we make pretty good accommodations. So that's my concern. I'm supportive of getting Jan's feedback and making sure that we're following the Nurse Practice Act.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea. Can I make just one comment as well? In regard to the 2019 delinquencies, there was one provider who I was able to contact last year, so 2019, who responded to me when they thought I was reaching out to them about their nursing license. And then when I let them know they were delinquent in their CNE providership, he disappeared off the face of the planet. So he responded within 60 seconds to my email when he thought it was about his nursing license. So
Right.
I think you're right with some of them. And certainly a lot of the delinquent ones I had this year, Becky, they alluded to what you said. I didn't even realize it was due. A lot of them aren't doing CNE and they thought if their numbers are 0, they don't have to submit anything. So certainly that
Right.
was a very popular reason this year. Some of the 2019 ones, I think they've kind of just slid under the radar and they've ignored me for 2 years.
That makes sense from the 2019, but the 2020 people, no, there's no live classes, there's no CEs. They're just probably for, like they made that assumption and that's not priority to keep their license. I mean, their CE certificate is not a priority and they're not even thinking about it till all this goes away.
Do we need a motion on that? Or is that just some, conversation with Jan and bring it back to our December meeting?
Yeah,
that
I
okay
think you
to
can
just-
just direct Chelsea and I to try to get a hold of somebody at these institutions, and I will get Jan's feedback and we'll just update this and put it back in the December packet. Would that be okay?
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great. Thank you, Carol.
Mhm.
Electronic documentation of attendance at a virtual CNE program.
Yeah, this is Carol Moreland, and I put this in here because, just as Becky was saying, there's no person-to-person CNE offerings, or there's very little, if there's any. But, so this is a question that has come to us quite a bit lately, is we want to do it online, we want to do it via Zoom, we want to do, something in which we're not going to have a signed roster. Okay, our regulations say they need to sign a roster. So the question that has come to us is, what happens if we do it by Zoom and there's no way for them to sign it? We can see who's on Zoom, and that's true, you can. What kind of exceptions are there to the regulation? What I put in here is something that one of our providers, Mary Beth, is doing, and they actually have the ability, it kind of shows you on page 431, they can actually do like an electronic signature. So I just wanted to discuss this with you, because again, our regulation says there has to be a signed roster. Now, others have said, okay, what we do is we do it by Zoom. However, if it's another facility that's doing it with us, we will send a roster to that facility, and then someone is responsible at that facility to get signatures and return it to us. Okay, well, the coordinator is not actually with it. You're trusting someone else to do it, and maybe that's okay. I guess I'm just looking for some guidance that Chelsea and I can tell these people, because it's very true. They can't do it face to face. But that doesn't also say that they can just not meet the regulations. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Well, in this day and age, I think about, signing my kids up for school, and, I fill out health documents, and electronic signatures are accepted.
Mhm.
And sometimes when I do an electronic signature, it's, using the mouse and scripting out my signature. And sometimes there are statements that say, by typing your name here, you are signifying that you are signing this document. And then it's just a keyboard to type your name in. So I don't know if, I guess I would think we could get it electronically, but still have it identified as a signature.
I know that some that I have done, like for electronically signing for documents for bank or whatever lately, that I get a code and I have to put that code in, and that code is specific to me as my signature. So that may be an option. I don't know how pricey that is. I don't know what it would cost for them to be able to do this stuff. But obviously if these people are paying to do online, or podcast or however they are doing Zoom or whatever, that they have an electronic signature, that they still have to fill out a survey, they still have to be present, and that somehow they have to account that that many people or that certain person was in there. I think with the signature, if it could be done this way with their license, especially if it was either a specific code to them, or they were actually able to sign it somehow, that like Mary Beth has on here, I would find that acceptable, because it's a assigned roster with their license number.
So if they're not able to do that, and it's like this Zoom meeting, I mean, we're seeing, Zoom is very popular right now. And so everybody's like doing Zoom, but when they talk to us and they say, there's no way I can get them to sign, I'm just going to look at the participant list on Zoom. Is that acceptable?
Well, for example, if I can offer, like Adrian right now is on our call and has been the whole time, but I haven't actually seen his face. So I'm not crediting Adrian. Okay, he's there. but I mean, these participants in these CNE could just put their name, turn off their video, and then go work in their garden. And have they really gotten any knowledge? And so that's what I've told them so far when they're reaching out to me and saying, can I just go off of the panelist or, the participant log, is how are you verifying that those people are actually attending and gaining knowledge from what you're presenting?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, Chelsea. One of the things that we've talked about, this is more work, I would say, than, on CNEs or that kind of thing, but it's expected to have your camera on and participate in the conversation, as opposed to, turn your camera off. And I guess that's meeting etiquette of today. And then the other thing is, sometimes when you log in, you log in as a phone number. We kind of talked about that earlier in this meeting as we were trying to take attendance. But if there was an accounting, you have to be logged in with your name, and you have to be visible with your camera on. Not everyone has cameras, and I know that's an issue. All computers don't. So, I don't know if by logging in with your name, if that could be considered your signature. But I don't feel like changing our regulation is the right answer. But I think maybe what we acknowledge as a signature may be changing just in today's world.
I wish we knew how much of CE continuing education is going to go back to the live classroom versus the virtual, because my feedback from when I'm around here is they really like the virtual. And so when we go back to everything's okay to go back to, face-to-face living again, I just wonder how much face-to-face CE we're going to have, or is it going to be a 50-50 mix? Personally, I wish it was all back 100%, because like you said, Chelsea, I know they turn their Zoom on, their cameras on, and then they leave and they come back when the CE's done and they get their hours. Versus in face to face, you can monitor their attendance, and that's what the roster is all about. So I'm torn. It's a dilemma. But if it's going to be the future, then we have to address it. We're going to have to address electronic signaturing of some sort.
I know.
I get the same way with, you get those pamphlets or those magazines in the mail to do the continuing education. I do those, but I'm probably one of the only people that actually read the whole thing, and I take it seriously, but I do it because it's easiest for me with the way I am. Now, I love to go to the live ones because I can ask questions and, but we know that those face-to-face are going to get less and less. It costs too much money, too much time. But I agree with you. It's going to be like those little pamphlets you get. You just skim through it, find the answers to your little questionnaire thing, and send it in, and there's your CEUs.
I know the rural part of Kansas, those nurses loved that online. The attendance was triple in numbers when they did, Hayes Med did a program. It was tripled in attendance because the rural nurses all across Western Kansas were all in attendance. So that's why I can see the tendency to continue the virtual just for that fact, for rural Kansas nurses.
We had other disciplines than nursing that required, if you did like a Zoom or online, you had to somehow document that they were still listening. Like every 15 minutes, you'd have to throw a question out or something and they would have to respond. But then it puts it on the providers. You almost have to have a program that enables you to be able to have a question thrown out, and then it creates, you know, a little more work too with coming up with those questions and remembering to do it. But anyway, it was something we kind of looked at for documentation that they were still online.
I just don't have an answer today, Carol. Sorry. It is a great question. I wish we had an answer.
That's okay. I mean, I think you've given Chelsea and I some ideas to throw out to them, you know, to just let them know that we will be continuing to monitor the situation. And again, we're not really sure how it's going to look after all this is over. If everybody's going to start doing face-to-face again, or whether the majority is going to be online, something like that.
Maybe we'll have to have a statute change at that time if we see that we're going to have to go down that path anyway for electronic sign-in for CEs. I think it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So this discussion's helpful for me. So I appreciate that.
Those are good ideas. I like them all on how you can validate the signature. And Karen, I loved that every so often you throw a question at them to make sure they're still at their computer screen.
But then if you have a large crowd, that's going to be cumbersome.
Hayes Med had 220 nurses.
Yeah.
That just tells you. It was excellent. It was excellent. I don't think anybody left. You could tell by the questions that they were typing in, but it was excellent. But you know, you can't do a large volume like that and asking questions every half hour.
I know, Carol, Mary Beth and I had met with Mariah way back when she was there, and then again with Linda. And, you know, there had been talk about revising the regulations at one point to include electronic. Are we still looking then at?
Actually, that was my suggestion to put on the agenda for December, is to bring back, Linda had worked on some revisions of those CNE regulations, and I just wanted to kind of resurrect those and put those in the packet for December and kind of get your thoughts about that. But I believe it included something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think so.
It's a great idea.
So with that being said, is there, maybe we jump to the December agenda. Is there other things you want to mention on that, Carol?
I don't think so. We will bring back, you know, the annual report stuff and just kind of update you on where we're at as far as getting a hold of people. And I mean, maybe we'll have all this taken care of and it'll be a mood.
Let's hope. I like the way you're thinking. Okay, anything else anyone would like to bring up? Okay,
yes,
with that,
I did want to ask, are we planning on doing this committee virtually as well? I know we talked about an education committee and we all talked about doing it by Zoom again.
Okay.
I will just say it's going to be discussed in the board meeting tomorrow about, I think, how the December meetings are going to be done. It is going to be added to the agenda. So that might provide some clarity there too.
Thank you.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the Continuing Nursing Education Committee meeting.
This is Rebecca. I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Becky. Is there a second?
This is
This
Mandy.
is Kaneda. I'll second it.
Great, thank you. Sounds, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Karen, I.
Aye. Kaneda.
Rebecca.
Aye.
Thank you all very much for your participation. We are adjourned.